Every Song You Know. It is brought to you in collaboration with Nairametrics. My name is Ifeanyi Atama.
My name is Bukola, and we have in the studio with us Ugo Dre. Our guest will be introducing herself later on in the course of the show. Good morning, Ugo. Good to have you.
Good morning.
Hi, morning, Ifeanyi. Hi, guys. How you guys doing? How's your weekend?
We're doing
fine,
great.
thank you. It's fine. So what's up?
All right, we're good. Hi, Lagos. How's everybody doing? I heard that 10 Milan traffic is not easy though. So
it's mad. It's not easy, I tell you.
Yeah, even Google Maps sometimes gets confused, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, we're here to keep you company as always.
We also have Abisade Adenubi with us in the studio.
She will introduce herself.
Yeah, good morning. We have a short bio on that. We'll just
so Lagos, as usual, Business Half Hour, we bring you guests from all over Nigeria, people doing amazing things, especially in the SME space. So just like Ifeanyi said, today we have another special guest. She's going to be talking SMEs. She's going to be telling us her journey. This time around, this is someone who is in the fashion space, incredibly, and not just just ordinary kind of fashion, but actually making stuff here in Nigeria. The last time we brought in somebody here who was doing local production of sportswear, but this time around we got somebody else who is in apparel. So we're gonna have her introduce herself as we usually do, right, Bukola?
Yeah. All right. So can we meet you? Give us the honor to meet you.
Drum rolling.
For sure. Good morning to you guys. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Abisade Adenubi. I am an international lawyer by training, now an industrialist, as I like to say. I'm the founder and executive director at Heritage Apparels. Great to be here.
And you've climbed the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro. You forgot to put that one.
You're supposed to sell yourself, Abisade. That's why we left it to you.
You said brief introduction. I could go on if you want me to.
That was rather brief. All right, but it's nice to meet you anyway.
Likewise.
How did you do that? Climbing the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro. It took you. You had to practice. You had to.
Yes. So I basically trained for about 3 months. I was doing a lot of cardio training, walking uphill. And in terms of the actual sort of climb itself, it took about 4 days. Actually, 5 days. So 4 days to literally kind of walk steadily and hike uphill, and then it took about 7 hours to get from the from base camp, like from the base of the mountain to the summit, and about 2.5 to 3 hours to come down.
Wow. So you have the Nigerian flag there now.
Yes, we do indeed.
Really interesting. You also run the London Marathon also.
I have indeed. I have.
Wow.
Right. Impressive.
Okay, but we're talking about Heritage Apparels this morning, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Okay. All right, Ugo.
All right. I mean, like, you just made some of us just feel kind of fun, like, oh my God, you can't even climb the stairs, but oh my God, you're climbing Kilimanjaro. All right, so let's get into the climb itself. That's the real business. The climbing, climbing a lot of business world, especially in Nigeria. It's a different kind of climb, compared to anywhere else in the world. So, from being a lawyer, like you said, right now you're an industrialist and you're going into apparels. Tell us that journey. How did you switch from, being a legal person and then now into industrial, and now you're an industrialist? Yeah.
Sure. So it's been an almost 10-year journey, actually. So in 2010, I set up a fashion brand, just really out of interest. I've always been interested in the fashion industry, in textiles and making clothes. I set up this, supposed to be a little fashion brand that was making classic wear for women, because my thinking was a lot of work wear for women was really bland. I was living in England at the time, so in London, lots of grays and blacks and navy blue. And my idea was to really infuse some color and oomph and personality into workwear. So I began, started this brand, and I was doing production mostly in Thailand, in India, and in London as well. So in terms of getting into production from that, having done that for a few years, I realized that Asia was too far. I'd have to jump on a flight for about 13 hours if I wanted to meet with my production team. London was too expensive. So I began to explore ideas or explore options for doing production elsewhere. And of course, being Nigerian and knowing that we have tailors all over the place in Nigeria, Nigeria was a natural option for me to consider. So I began to, so I came to Nigeria, began to do research into, who I could partner with to produce for my brand. I didn't really find any sort of, production companies at the time that were doing stuff to the standard I had become used to. And then just by chance, so at the same time, I was sort of researching African textiles as well, because I thought if I was going to move production to Nigeria, it didn't make sense to continue, because I was using mostly Western textiles at the time. It didn't make sense to import textiles here and then export the finished goods back to the UK or to Europe, where my primary market was. So I began to research African textiles to see what I could use that would still fit in with the look and feel of my brand. So I traveled around West Africa, looking at kente fabric, looking at baule fabric, all sorts. And then that journey brought me to Abeokuta, which is actually where our factory is based. I was looking for Adire fabric as part of that research process. And I literally bumped into the factory that we're now occupying. It was literally, I literally just stumbled upon it, so I was with my grandmother actually, and she saw a sign saying Adire and African Fabric Center, and she said, oh, why don't we just stop and see what they're doing? We were looking for Adire fabric. So we did, and we didn't find any Adire fabric, but what we found was a factory that had been abandoned for several years. And that's where we are today. And this was in December 2014. Wow. And yes, that's where we are today. So that's kind of the journey in a nutshell.
Wow. That's amazing stuff. So that's incredible journey. So like, it wasn't like you had any factory waiting for you here. You basically just came down, did your own research, going around, and you just jumped into a factory. Incredible stuff. Incredible stuff. And Bukola, you know what's interesting? Yeah. Guess who was her factory opening?
Who? I can't think.
Ex-president of you.
Yeah, it was the former president, President Abisade was there.
Good. And okay, so you started out wanting to produce for the runway, right?
Well, not really the runway. So for me, it was more like, practical garments for women. So I wasn't really interested like in high fashion or haute couture or anything like that. It was more just sort of, just beautiful pieces that women could wear to work and just feel, great wearing them. So yes, it was more the sort of fashion side. And then in trying to find production for my own brand, I bumped into this place, which was much too large for my own needs alone. And I just thought, yeah, I could solve my own and other people's problems who have similar production issues.
Oh. So you're exporting most of your products, are you?
Sorry?
Are you exporting your products?
So yes, we are doing some exports. I wouldn't say most of our products. We're still sort of, starting. So we literally started operations in June of last year, and we officially launched in January this year. So it's still early days. We've done some export, but we've also done quite a bit locally as well.
So when you say apparel, right, what exactly does that mean, or what exactly do you do? So do you is it finished shirts or, blouses or gowns, or is it just materials where people can come buy those materials and then go, sew them themselves? What exactly is that you do? And you have like a brand, is it called a name? Could you just explain that a bit?
Right. So the business is called Heritage Apparels. There's no sort of, sub-brand beneath that. But we do have 5 different sort of business lines, if you like. The first is basically contract manufacturing, where, we produce high volume apparel like uniforms for schools, uniforms for security businesses, things like overalls and coveralls for industrial businesses and so on. And so under that sort of, aspect of the business, we've done production for the Lagos Marathon. We did about 15,000 vests for that. We've done obviously tens of thousands of face masks during this pandemic. So that's the business line that does really high volume stuff. And then we have our own brand manufacturing as well, which is being developed, where we're going to be producing our own brand of basic, basic garments like, boxers for men, shirts, just, really basic apparel that people, that I feel people don't have to import to wear and to get at a, at a reasonable price. And then we of course have the fashion manufacturing side which is actually where it all started from my end, where basically we do production for fashion brands who want to scale up into retail, but don't have the in-house capacity to produce. And then, of course, being in Abeokuta, which is the cultural home of Adire Fabric, we have an Adire production center as well, where we produce Adire for our own production in-house, but also for other brands. And then the final line is we have, so last year, which we'll probably come on to, when I was training my staff, I realized that training was really valuable, and I wanted to be able to offer it to other young people in the local area. So we have a vocational center as well, where we're starting up to train young people in tailoring.
That's a good one. So you're branching out. So tell us.
That's a very, I like that. It's got a lot of branches already. So that's like 5 already I counted. What's kind of interesting is people seem to complain a bit about local production in Nigeria and all the challenges. It's not that easy. But hearing you kind of make it sound like, look, this is possible, and you're doing it already, and you're scaling. You're not just doing it for yourself. You're also helping local, fashion companies who are looking to scale, like you very well put it. But there's got to be some challenges, though. So what kind of challenges do you face? Like, especially now that you're in Nigeria, what would you say are the major challenges for you?
Oh, wow. The challenges are endless. And I think that if you focus on the challenge, you just won't get anything done. So the challenges abound, one of which is a skilled workforce, really, because like I said earlier, even though we have a lot of tailors in Nigeria, but we basically operate on a sort of cut and sew basis, which is your local ashwabi maker, or you have your high fashion designers who are designing stuff at the high end. But in terms of actually paying attention to garment construction and how things are done properly and how you can standardize the process and not just do a one-off piece. I'm sure you've had situations where you make something with your tailor, it fits perfectly, the next week exactly the same measurements and it doesn't fit. Right? And that's because, of standardization issues. So one of the things the main thing that I did to, I guess, mitigate that problem and that issue was to basically train my staff from scratch. So as opposed to looking for existing tailors who I could hire, I just gathered young people in the Abeokuta area, ready to learn, willing to work. And I got some master trainers from Sri Lanka, which has some of the world's leading garment factories in the world, to come to Abeokuta for 6 months to train staff from scratch. So from June to December last year, we were exclusively training, because for me it was really important to set that foundation right and give them the skills that they require, and also a really thorough understanding of not just garment making, but also just how a modern factory operates and what the systems are and processes and structures that are required to really produce top quality garments. So yeah, that was one of the main issues.
All right, Bukola.
Yeah, I think it's very, very key. I like the fact that she emphasized on training, because sometimes we're not so into finishing. Well, don't let me say we are not. Some people are not so into finishing of clothes, because it's very, very, very important at the end of the day. When you now emphasize on training like that, you know that the quality of what you're getting is top notch. Because there's this thing, we always look down on made in Nigeria products. We need to get past that, just produce. Anyhow, people would buy. But we should learn to produce, that when we produce, we get to the international market and it can compete. So I like that fact that she's decided to focus on that one. And the foundation is key, because if you don't have the right foundation, you've missed it, which I think is.
What do you think?
Sure. You said?
No, I said, Ifeanyi, what do you think?
Oh yes, I think she's spot on with that. But I have a question about the competition.
Sure.
A lot of Adire factories in Abeokuta. How do you manage the competition there?
Sure. Well, so for me, one of the, I guess, building blocks or foundation blocks of my business is to do things differently, is to do things, you know, to global standards. And so, so for example, as far as adire making goes, one of the key things for me that we're beginning to look into at the moment is how to make adire production more sustainable. So globally, sustainability has become a key buzzword, but not just buzzword. It's become one of those things that, you know, is essentially one of the world's, you know, most serious issues at the moment. There's issues of climate change and so on. And so one of the things that we're working on is to really begin to research and to see how we can do adire fabric differently. So how can we sort of maintain and retain the traditional heritage and the craftsmanship associated with adire production, but, you know, make it evolve in such a way that we're beginning to use more sustainable dyes. For example, we're polluting less, we're using more sustainable, you know, textiles as well, and not just a lot of, you know, polyester stuff. So that's kind of, you know, something that we're doing differently to make us stand out, but also in line with one of our key business ethos, which is sustainability. So that's, you know, that's just one area.
All right, fantastic. I think we're going to go on a short break now, Lagos. We've been having a very, very, very amazing conversation so far. If you are just tuning in, we've been talking to Abisade Adenubi. She is the founder and CEO of Heritage Apparel. They've got a factory in Abeokuta, and they make, you know, clothes, whether for you as a fashion owner, or clothes for, you know, uniforms, or, you know, whatever. So amazing. It's another young person. So when we get back on the other side of the next 15 minutes, we will follow the money. That's what we always do on this show. Like, okay, how do you make the money? Where did the money come from? How are you?
Cool.
So Bukola, back to you.
We'll take a break right now on Business Half Hour on Classic FM 97.3. We'll be right back.
All right, welcome back to Business Half Hour on Classic FM 97.3, station that plays every song you know. It is brought to you in collaboration with Nairametrics. We have been speaking with Abisade Adenubi, an international lawyer, an industrialist, and an academic. She's the founder and executive director of Heritage Apparels, a textile and apparel production factory in Ogun State, Nigeria. Welcome back.
Great, Lagos. Welcome back. Very happy to have Abisade on the show today. I've been dreading to ask you this question, and I think I'm just gonna, Bukola, you know that question we usually ask, like how young are you?
You had to go there.
Because I mean, like, you've accomplished so much already. So, like, and you don't look like you're, you know, Bukola's age. You know what I mean? So
I'm not the SI unit, eh? But really, it's quite amazing. We get to have a lot of young people here who are doing amazing things, you know, entrepreneurs before 30, before 40. So we just get curious to ask ask you about your age, and to find out how it has been.
You can give us a range if you're not comfortable with saying the exact.
Happy to under 40.
Okay.
Interesting.
And you've been doing this 10 years already.
Correct.
Incredible. All right. So one thing we also do on the show is we try to follow the money, right? And try to find out, you know, every business has got an underlying business model around it. So for yours, we will start first with, how did you get the funding to even, you know, acquire the factory, or maybe rent the factory, you know, and then set up your business, right? And then secondly, dovetailing from that question is, so how exactly, you know, are you making money? And then finally, are you actually making money? So, you know, give us a bit of, so three questions in one.
Sure. So I'm a lawyer, so I'll have to, like, you know, put bullet points for all those questions. So the first question, how has it been funded? One word: bootstrapping. It's been hard. I have to say, you know, it's not easy, but I think that when you have a vision that you believe in, you just go all in. So essentially, over the last 2 years, so it's been 10 years since I started my first fashion business, but in terms of actually preparing to start and starting the factory itself, it's been a solid 2 years in terms of, you know, checking out the place, bringing a consultant to come and have a look and to assess and all of that. It's been about 2 years, and it's been self-funded since then up until now. Of course, I've had some, kind inputs from family and friends, but for the most part, it's been self-funded, which is not easy, as you can imagine. But I think that it's really critical for me, especially in the early stages of a business like this, to really get to a point where the systems and the structures and processes that are required for the business to operate to its full capacity have been put in place before you now then begin to look for external funding. So I think that we're now at that place where, like I said, we've been in operation since June last year. We launched officially in January. And so we're now in a place where, we've worked really hard to build the system, build those structures. We're now at a place where we're starting to have discussions with potential investors. But up until now, it's been mostly self-funded.
Interesting.
Right.
I mean, bootstrapping is not easy. So, I mean, I feel you very well. So next, go on.
And then the next question was if we're being profitable or no, how do we actually make money? So we make money by selling, basically. So for example, through all of the different business lines that we have. So Adira making revenue generating for us, contract manufacturing, which has been the most the largest part of the business so far. That will likely change as time goes on, but you never know with these things. So that has been, income generating as well. Of course, when we do production for, so we've done medical scrubs, for example, that's revenue generating. We've done, like I said, face masks as well, and so on. So the different, business lines bring in revenue to different degrees. But of course, as a new business, it takes a while to, get on a steady footing from a sort of, financial perspective, but we're on our way there.
All right. So currently, do you manage to break even, or are you typically underwater and you have to sort of bring in your own equity so that you can be back on top? What's been the journey like?
Sure. The journey has been, it's been up and down, no doubt. And like I said, it's been mostly self-funded up until now, so which is not an easy process. But I think that we've done quite well. I would say, not just financially, but just as a business, in terms of building a strong employee base, building a strong culture, which is really important in this line of business, and we can talk about that more. But so I think as a whole, I like to say that we're a brand new baby, but I think that we're not doing too badly. There's definitely scope to expand. There's definitely scope. The vision is massive, and there's definitely a lot more to come. But I think that we're taking the right steps to get there.
All right, we're getting out of time, but there's a question as well, from some of our Zoom listeners. Oh, by the way, we've got Zoom listeners on the show as well. Participant in here. So do we take this question? So somebody's saying here, how have you been coping with energy cost? Power, do you use generators, or how do you cope with that? Because that's one of the most important costs, especially when it comes to manufacturing.
Right, great question. And of course we all know about the energy crisis that we have, but luckily for us, one of the key things that I was really adamant about when I was going into this business was to really mitigate that risk and that issue. So the premises that we currently occupy has constant electricity supply. So that's not an issue that I worry about necessarily because we have power, which is great.
All right, so we're getting close to the end of the show, and I gotta ask you this question though. How big do you think your business can be 5 years from now? Are we looking at a business that can immediately scale to $1 billion per annum or 10 billion per annum? What's the size? What size do you see for yourself in the next 5 years for this business?
100%. So I see us really dominating the textiles and garment making sector on the continent in the next 5 to 10 years. So at the moment we have 40 employees, 40, and we're building that constantly. We're really spending a lot of time investing in the culture, investing in putting solid systems in place, like I said earlier. And like I said, also the vision is massive. So since starting last year, I have an increasingly clearer idea as to what exactly it is that I want to achieve. So the vision is crystal clear, to me, I can see just how enormous the potential is for us to expand and for us to become a real player, not just producing apparel for Nigerians, but for Africans and for the world as well. So yeah, the future is orange.
So I want you to put the money on the table. Like, are you looking at 10 billion, 20 billion, 5 years from now, per annum kind of business in terms of turnover? How big can it scale? Or, I mean, are we looking at $1 million?
What I would say is it can scale significantly. I think that in this business, if you play your cards right, as with most businesses, you can do really well. So my focus at the moment is to really continue to build, to really build a solid company that I can now then layer a number of different things over.
All right, great. Bukola and Ifeanyi, thanks for the show. We've been talking to Abisade Adenubi on the show. The time is basically up, but we're not going to leave without you telling us what your byline is. That's one question we usually ask at the end of the show. Like, what's that watchword or byline that guides you on a daily basis? So let us have that quickly.
Sure. For me, it's impossible is nothing.
Wow. Oh, good. No wonder you climbed the summit of Kilimanjaro, didn't you? But that's a good one anyway. If you have that at the back of your mind, you'll just want to try anything. Yeah, take the risk.
That's actually what my name means. So that's what my name means. But did you know that?
Really? Interesting.
Fine. Yeah. Nothing is impossible.
Ah, yeah. Really? Ugo, is he telling the truth?
Yes,
what do you
You're spot on there. He's telling the truth.
Oh, that is it. So we should
Lagos. That's our show. We've been talking to Abisade Adenubi, CEO, founder of Heritage Apparels. She's been on this show. As usual, you can get if you missed the show, you just came in late, you can get the podcast of this show tomorrow on Metrics. And any of your podcast app that you use, you can always get the show and get to listen to it again. Bukola, Ifeanyi, back to you. Thanks so much for the show.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Abisade, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, how can they reach you though?
Yes. Yes, how can you reach me? So the factory is based in Abeokuta. It's in the Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library complex. That's where we are. In terms of online, we are online at Heritage Apparels with an S.com. And I'm on LinkedIn as Abisade Adenubi and on Instagram and Facebook as well.
All right.
Very much. Wish you all the best.
Thanks very much. Thank you guys.
Have a lovely week ahead.
And you as well.
Bye.
All right, TC.